The following broadcast is for entertainment purposes. The views and opinions expressed are solely that of the broadcaster and do not reflect those of any particular governing body in volleyball. Independently verify all rules if any conflict should arise. Hello, everyone, and welcome to From the Stand. I'm Ref Mike, your host. And before we get started today, I wanted to go over a couple of things. First of all, I wanted to say Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, the volleyball parents, volleyball dads. I myself am a father of 5, so Happy Father's Day to you. Also, it's with great sadness that I do want to share the passing of Miss Mary Blaylock. She was extremely involved for decades in NCAA volleyball at all levels of volleyball, but she has passed away recently, and I just wanted to express my condolences to her family. And lastly, again, all my opinions are my own. And today's episode is going to be a good one. We're in a new format. It's going to be a little bit shorter, hopefully. And we're in a new studio. I commandeered one of the bedrooms and kind of turned it into a little volleyball studio for me. So I hope you enjoy. Again, today we're going over, it's From the Stand with your host, Ref Mike. And today we're talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly from a referee's point of view. And today I want to shine a spotlight right on one of the most unique positions in volleyball, or one of the unique positions in any sport, and that's the libero. The history of the libero is quite interesting. Historically, the game has been dominated by tall people with powerful spikes and intimidating blocks, but the libero position allowed for shorter and more agile players to play a more pivotal role on the court. The term libero comes from the Italian word free, reflecting the player's unique ability and freedom to move around the court, although there are restrictions. The libero position was introduced in international volleyball in 1998 by the FIVB, which is the overall governing body of our sport. The purpose was to enhance the defensive capabilities of the game, bringing a new dynamic to how volleyball is played and viewed. The position has since then made its way onto American rosters in all 3 codes, USAV, NCAA, and NFHS. In some cases, the libero is often seen as the quarterback of the defense or the whole team in general, responsible for reading the opponent's offense and directing their teammates to optimal defensive positions. The libero is often credited with making the game more exciting and inciting longer rallies. A well-accepted strategy is to take out the setter, which means you play the ball to the setter so they don't have the second hit. If you've ever heard a team say setters out, well, taking out the setter can put a team in a bad position, playing the ball and leading to a broken attack. Enter the libero. The libero gave teams the ability to put the libero between the ball and the setter, freeing up the setter to do what they do best, summon up the fish to the dish so the hitters can administer that hardcore facial of a lifetime. But there's still some confusion and lack of understanding on how this position works and what they're allowed and not allowed to do. So I wanted to clear some of that up and break down this position from a referee's point of view into some bite-sized chunks. I'm going to talk about the libero as it pertains to the roster, the lineup, the playing actions, and replacements. And it's going to be a brief overview and things that we're looking for. So first of all, that roster and lineup. The easiest part of our job when it comes to checking the libero pre-match is making sure they're in the right uniform. The libero is in such a specialized position that it is required to have its own uniform. He or she is, that way they're easily identifiable to referees and spectators alike. But it goes far beyond just those visual differences. The libero is, by its very nature, a true defensive specialist. The primary responsibility being to enhance the team's defense by focusing on serve, receive, and digging up tacks from the opponents. All 3 codes use the libero, and the only significant difference here is that NFHS is only using 1 libero still. Now, personally, I think that's going to change, but I don't know when, and I have no ideas when that will change. NCAA implemented a rule change this year to allow two liberos. Having two liberos keeps the position fresh, allows those liberos to switch on and off the court because usually they're always the ones running around on the court there. Libero placement is very different than any other player on the court. The libero is placed in the lineup, but doesn't occupy one of the starting positions. However, that libero there can let's see, I got a little graphic here. Check it out. Oh yeah. So they can't occupy one of the starting positions, but they can be replaced before the match starts into one of those three back positions. The libero is a back row player only, meaning that the position can only be played in positions 1, 5, or 6 on the court here. When the libero is rotates to the front row, he or she must come off the court, and referees will give players plenty of time to make that replacement. But we'll go over the replacement a little bit later. So I did want to make something clear though. There are situations that when a referee is watching these replacements, and believe it or not, we watch them as they happen. If a replacement is made after the authorization for service more than one time, for some rule sets, and other rule sets aren't too specific, but when teams could incur a delay of game sanction. So, but as far as USAV, the rule does state that if the libero does exchange more than one time after the authorization for service, they can incur a delay of game sanction. So, in the spirit of the match tempo, right? Let's just say this: the replacement should take place in a timely and efficient manner, right? And it should take place in the correct spot so it doesn't disrupt the flow of the match. And that flow of the match can be very important to certain teams, and that flow that takes place could be derailed by a libero replacement. So, but more on the replacements later. I'm getting too far off. So let's be honest here. A referee can tell when someone is trying to manipulate match tempo to gain advantages. That's all I'm trying to say. So recently I was at a tournament when I had the opportunity to speak to a young player who was on the work team after one of the matches. And she was asking me some questions about ball contact and judging ball contact. And I kind of segued that into address how she kind of moseys to the end line to when she's serving. And when I asked her that, I could see the coy smile on her face as she told me that she's like getting into the zone, right? So she says she's getting into the zone, and then she kind of snickered about it. I mean, you think that we don't know what's going on? You think you're the only one to do that? I mean, come on, let's be real. You think that your coach, we don't see your coach holding onto the ball just a little too long before they pretty much place it on the floor and hopes that gravity or an act of Congress magically pushes it to the server? Now, we referees know and understand that those are delay tactics. They're slowing the match tempo down. And sometimes that could be a detriment or cause an undue effect on the opposing team. And as a referee, it's our job to keep that interaction between the two teams fair. If it feels like it, like look. This is the duck phenomenon here, right? If it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, farts like a duck, swings like a duck, whatever, right? Then it's a duck. So if it feels like you're slowing the match down, or it is noticeable, or we can tell that the match tempo is being slowed down, or if the idea even pops into the referee's head, hey, there's a definite disturbance in the force here, then the chances are we both know that you're trying to slow the match down. Stop. Like, we know what you're doing, and don't wait until you get that first yellow card or that first delay sanction before you say, hey, okay, enough is enough. Remember, by and large, referees are facilitators of the match. We as a general rule, when I go and I do my pre-match conferences, I tell the girls, I say, look, I want to watch you guys play volleyball. When I blow my whistle, ask yourself, do I want to stop play or do I have to stop play? I want the match to be decided between the skill of your two teams earning points from each other, not trying to earn a point from me. All right. So playing actions. This is probably one of the largest sources of controversy when it comes to a libero, especially from the difference between what an R1 sees and an R2. And that R2, the up ref or the down ref, as far as perspective goes, and what each code is, what each code says specifically that their particular referees can call. For instance, like NFHS prefers ball handling solely be left up to the R1, and with maybe some discrete signals from the R2. And USAV, it's encouraged that if a ball handling fault happens, it happens, but not to undermine the R1. And that's kind of a bad example because by and large, ball handling should be left up to the first referee. So we'll just move on. But playing actions, because the libero is a defensive position by its very nature, the libero has some limitations, and these playing actions pretty much are universal across the three disciplines. And the libero cannot attack the ball. I want to define attack real quick. So an attack is considered directing the ball across the plane of the net, excuse me, across the plane of net to the opposing team. So that's an attack. The libero can attack the ball when the ball is completely above the height of the net from anywhere on the court, not the front zone, not the back zone. So the longest part of this episode is going to be letting things kind of sink in. The libero cannot attack the ball at all from anywhere on the court when the ball is above the height of the net. So thank you, Play Pick. And I got these from the NFHS NCAA USAV volleyball, all about the libero book by Brad Titrington. That I got from referee.com. Not a shout out. I'm just citing my source here. So if you take a look at this play pick here, the libero's in the white shirt. The libero's in this white jersey, and that white jersey means you can't attack the ball from above the height of the net. So we see, obviously it's a still picture, but we see that it's unmistakable that the ball was completely above the height of the net when the libero made contact with it, because this is under the assumption that the ball is traveling to the left or to the opposing team's side. So the libero cannot attack the ball from anywhere when the ball is above the height of the net. And again, this is one of those things that's like repetitious. It's repetitious for us as referees. It's repetitious to hear in this video, even though I know in 2024 you can just rewind everything and buy. You don't have to say it once. And if you want to hear it again, you'll go back and listen to it again. But that is the case with that. So the libero also cannot block or even attempt to block. So the libero there's a dynamic here, right? The dynamic is a front row player can attack, a back row player can attack from the back, and the setter can come up to the front. If it's a back row setter, come up front, can attack, but they can set the ball to somebody, and they can attempt to block, but can't be a part of a completed block. And so all this stuff that goes through our heads, right? But the libero is, boom, hands down, cannot block or attempt to block, cannot attack from anywhere on the court. So the libero cannot attack or block or even attempt to block. Referees have to determine whether or not the libero at the net is making a blocking action as part of a solo or collective block. So it begs to be said here what is defined as a block. A block is any attempt to stop the ball from coming from the opposing team's play space, and your fingers have to be above the height of the net. So if your fingers are not above the height of the net, that's not a block, right? But if you make an action, that is an attempt to block. And if your fingers, you don't even have to touch the ball for it to be an attempt to block. This will result in a blocking fault on the libero. So you can't block or attempt to block. And this is something that may be in the back of the mind of a referee, but it doesn't mean that it should be something that a libero should try to get away with, right? Obviously, we can see you. You're wearing a pink shirt, and the rest of your team is wearing black shirts or white shirts. Train your libero to stay away from the net when on defense, because that's not where they're supposed to be, anyways. Also, the libero is not allowed to. Now, this is the one that kind of takes a little bit of getting used to, as far as eyeballing it from a referee's point of view. A libero is not allowed to use an overhead finger pass from the front zone where the moment of contact on the attack hit is completely above the height of the net. So just like that first one, just like the first one here, just like this first one here, you are not allowed to attack the ball above the height of the net, right? From anywhere on the court. The same thing for here, except it's the attacker from a overhead finger. Now it has to be an overhead finger pass, and they have to be in the front zone. So that's part of that a referee algorithm that we go through. What are we looking for? We're looking for the libero just set the ball, look down. Are they in front? Are they in the attack zone, or are they in the front zone, or are they on the attack line? Because that counts as being in the attack zone. That will result in an illegal attack. And that is one of those things where it's the whistle may seem a little late to spectators and even the opposing team or the team that made the fault. But when the signal comes across, it will be an illegal attack or an attack fault. And if it is the libero who did the overhead finger pass, generally we will signal or indicate that it was the libero. The libero is a very specialized position. I have a lot of respect for him, period. All right. This is the kind of player that's constantly getting banged up and run ragged and sacrificing himself or herself for the ball. Something I often did when I was playing, but I wasn't a libero. I'm looking for clean contact. Most referees are looking for clean contact from the libero. And when a ball is flying all over the place and a libero is making a dramatically athletic play, I'm going to be a little more forgiving when I'm judging contact. But a blatant mishandling of the ball should always be whistled, period. If it's not a simultaneous contact, prolonged contact. Watching the libero run around the court makes the game so much more exciting. There is absolutely no reason why people should be pulling their liberos or liberos are not following the rules. Now, let's talk about the replacement. So here's the deal with the replacement. It's simple. And I'm gonna bite tongues, try to make things. I don't know how to make it more clear. I mean, like, I seriously don't. The replacement zone is huge, like huge. Like, look at this thing. Like the replacement zone is huge. It's 2.5 times bigger than the dang substitution zone. So there's absolutely no reason why a libero replacement should not take place anywhere but the libero replacement zone. Like, all you have to do is that sideline between those two lines, just go in there. It's that easy. And if you don't, we notice. I promise you. A preventative officiating, we're going to fix you. And then you'll incur a delay sanction. And then you do it again and you'll get a red card. And nobody wants to give up points for a silly red card when it's preventable. For something that's easy, right? All too often you see it happen. They get excited. Girls get excited. I understand that. Use the replacement zone. Now, there are two types of exchanges that take place in volleyball. The substitution, which I'll cover in a whole nother episode, and the libero replacement. Now, the exchange by the libero is a replacement, not a substitution, so they're unlimited. This means that a libero can go on and off the court and within the confines of the rules, of course. I won't cover those rules in detail because this is specifically pertaining to these particular replacements, but basically that means only one replacement per dead ball with the exception of a double replacement. And in some instances with USAV where you have multiple, USAV and NCAA where you have multiple liberos, a double replacement switcheroo with two sort of thing where you do like a double replacement with your libero and then you replace your liberos too. But that's what I'm calling it. So I'm going to call it the double replacement switcheroo with two. So with unlimited replacements, the teams can substitute more frequently, which allows fewer players to have to substitute, and they can go into more specialized positions for like hitting or blocking or serving or whatever. And it allows teams for a wider use of their team's roster in more positions. In other words, with the libero on the roster, teams can substitute more frequently without using their allotted substitutions, and allowing more specialized and efficient rotations. This change has led to a strategic depth in rosters and flexibilities and lineups, right? So that dastardly double replacement and the double replacement libero with two blue who. So the libero is allowed to serve in one position, right? And this is why this takes place. That usually happens after a double replacement. So even though there's usually only one replacement allowed per dead ball, and this is called a double replacement, when they're going to serve, more often than not, it's a double replacement, is why it takes place. So this little simple operation is confusing to most referees at first blush, right? Because it confused me. And I was told by many people that it confused them when they initially saw it. But because initially it is usually explained verbally, and then we get the old, oh, you'll understand it more later. Or you'll understand it when you see it a couple times. And then you have that aha moment where it just kind of clicks, right? Well, I'm going to show you and I'm going to tell you. And if you don't understand, then you can rewind it and watch it again, and then rewind it and watch it again, and watch it again, and slow it down and watch it again. And then when you see it on the court, you'll be able to better understand what this exchange is. So I'm going to show you this little graphic here. This right here is your Libero double replacement. Now, a couple things before I show this to you. The red shoes are the red feet are your Libero. The green feet is your original replacement that came in for the Libero. And the blue feet will be your double replacement. So as the Libero, the first exchange happens when the Libero rotates from, in this particular case, rotates from the 5 to the 4 position. So the back left to the front left, right? Or left back to left front. And then that green comes back in, right? So instead of the Libero going out, the Libero is going to go back to serve. But since the Libero can't be in the front row, they're going to be replaced by the original player. And then the second replacement happens when the Libero comes back in and replaces the player that rotated from the number 2 position to the number 1 position, which is the one in front of the front right to the right front to the right back position, the serving position. So now the Libero is in the serving position on right back, right? And that is the glorious double replacement. Simple enough, right? If that wasn't as clear as mud, let's go there's this dastardly double replacement switcheroo to Liberos. Well, what is it, right? Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, except in this particular instance, again, you have both feet here are your red, both red feet are your Liberos. And in this particular instance, it's the same exact thing, right? Except instead of your Libero going from the on-court Libero or the active Libero going back to serve, when the Libero goes from position 5 to position 4 and then comes off the court because they can't be in position 4, right? They stay off the court. They actually go off the court. And then the new Libero goes from position from off the court or the reserve Libero to position 2, which is rotating to position 1 to serve, right? So in this graphic, it's the same. It's basically, like I said, the same thing. The original replacement replaces the active Libero, and then the reserve Libero comes in and replaces the number 2 replacement. So it's still a double replacement, but you're switching your Liberos, and that is that. That is that. So a couple of final thoughts. I have a final thoughts right here. Look at that. There's the final thoughts. I have many thoughts, and some of them are final, but they won't be the end, right? They won't be the end because I've got more. The Libero position has not only revolutionized the defensive aspect of volleyball, but has brought more visibility to this game, period. I mean, players like Japan's Yoko Sano and Brazil's Sergio Santos, Italy's Monica De Giorno, showcasing those incredible defensive skills, inspiring plays. Eric Soji, one of the, and that is an Amber Alert. Look at that. And Eric Soji, one of the United States, up for the United States. I don't know if he still has the record for the most digs in a single National League season, volleyball National League season, VNL season. But that does highlight the critical role that Liberos play in maintaining a deep defense, a team's defense. The Libero has undoubtedly changed the landscape of volleyball, period. I don't know many people that complain about Liberos or wonder why they're around or anything like that, but they're a great addition to the sport, emphasizing that defense is just as crucial as offense. Their presence on the court brings a unique energy and a resilience, and making volleyball not just a game of power, but one of skill and strategy and finesse, And I hope I have imparted that upon you. So next time you watch a volleyball match, keep an eye on that Libero, the unsung hero whose relentless defense can turn the tide of a match. Until next time, keep playing, keep supporting, keep cheering from the stands. And I'm Ref Mike saying, see you on the court.